On the news, PDP's presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar says he will take further action after Supreme Court's judgment. Federal government to designate Ajaokuta as a free trade zone. And United Nations calls for reorientation for world education system in commemoration of 2023 World Teachers' Day. It's a pleasure to have you join us on News Now. I am Simisola Atigun. The presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, Atiku Abubakar, says he will decide on further action after the Supreme Court's ruling over President Bola Tinubu's academic records from the Chicago State University. Atiku said this during a World Press Conference on Thursday at the Shehu Yar'Adua Center in Abuja. Atiku had approached the U.S. District Court in Northern Illinois to compel the university to release President Tinubu's academic records, arguing that it would boost his suit challenging the president's election in the February 25 presidential elections.
These are the documents. One, that Bola Ahmed Tinubu forged the certificate he presented to INEC. That's one. Two, that the qualifying certificate from Southwest College to Chicago State University bears a female, indicating that that document does not belong to Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Three, the Chicago State University admission application form has a claim that Bola Ahmed Tinubu attended Government College, Lagos, and graduated in 1970, when indeed the school was established in 1974. It is very, very clear that from the decided authorities, the Supreme Court has held that they can accept a party to adduce fresh evidence as long as certain conditions are met. And from what transpired in proceedings in U.S. courts, that condition has already been met. So, as we speak, our law is very clear that a party at fault cannot be allowed to enjoy the fruit of his illegality.
I will only drop the fight when the court rules. If the court rules that I am right, fine. If the court rules that he is right, so that's the end of the fight. Because at the moment we are at the Supreme Court, and there is no any other court than the Supreme Court.
Now let's discuss this development further. I'm now being joined by legal practitioner Monday Ubani. Thank you for your time, Mr. Ubani. Now, listening to what Atiku Abubakar has said, that he will present new evidence regarding President Bola Tinubu's academic records. Now, please tell us, what are Atiku's chances at the Supreme Court?
Yeah, thank you for having me. The first hurdle he needs to cross is the admissibility of that piece of evidence that had just been released to him. The Supreme Court, as I said earlier, just like every other appellate court, rarely admits fresh evidence because their job is actually to review the decision of the court that is below and not to begin to evaluate evidence. It is the first court of instance that usually see the witnesses and evaluate the evidence of the witnesses, whether they are right or whether they are, witnesses of truth or that of fraud or lies. But now you are placing the appellate court on the position of accepting fresh evidence. So there we have to look at the possibility of acceptance. And it's only on the exceptional ground they do. If the evidence you are presenting now wasn't available at the time you file the process at the court below, they can admit that evidence now, but you have to convince them why it wasn't available at the lower courts, because the lower court's evidence is what they will review. All the documents you have tendered before the lower court will review. So that is one. So if it crosses the hurdle of admissibility, the second issue is what purpose does he want to use this document to achieve? And I know that many people are saying about forged documents. Yes, Section 137 of the 1999 Constitution, a particular paragraph make the issue of submission of forged document to INEC a ground for disqualification of any elected president. So if they succeed in proving that the document that he tendered to INEC was forged, then it means there is a problem. But it's a higher level of proof that is required because it's now criminal. It's no longer civil. It's not going to be on balance of probability. It's not going to be based upon weight of evidence now. It's going to be based upon proving beyond reasonable doubt. So you must specifically be able to tender that evidence that says that the school says the document he tendered wasn't from them and they know nothing about it. They don't have any agent that could have issued that particular paper that he has tendered before INEC. If they succeed in doing that, then it means that there is a bit of a problem, on the issue of forged document. But they must have the school to admit that it was a forged document that the current president has submitted before INEC. So it's a very grave and onerous responsibility and burden that has to be discharged by the appellant, at the Supreme Court.
All right, now, of course, Tinubu's team, that's President Tinubu's team, will also present its case at the Apex Court. Let's now discuss what their argument would be at the Apex Court. Would their arguments be strong enough to counter that of Atiku Abubakar?
That would be speculative now because I don't know their strategy. I don't know what argument they want to talk. But I know they are strategizing at this point and looking at the state of the law, because there are laws, that have been provided to guide the court in reaching a decision. They will look at all the electoral laws. They will also look at the provisions of the Constitution. They will look at the decided cases, so far on the matter, and then be able now to put up a defense whenever, it comes up that this piece of evidence has been admitted by the Supreme Court. So the responsibility now is to disprove the fact that there was no forged document that was submitted to INEC. So their strategy is actually to ensure that they shut down every argument of forgery. Because if you don't succeed in doing that, then there is a problem. But if you succeed in doing that by showing evidence that there is no forgery and nobody has called that piece of evidence forged document, then it will be very difficult for the allegation of forgery to stand.
Well, legal expert and former chairman MBA Spidal, I forgot to add that. Thank you very much for your insights.
Thank you for having me.
Still on the judiciary, the Supreme Court has fixed December 15 to deliver its judgment on the appeal that is seeking to compel the federal government to release the leader of the indigenous people of Biafra, IPOB, Nnamdi Kanu, from detention. A 5-member panel led by Justice Kudirat Kekereekun fixed the date after counsel for both the federal government and the detained IPOB leader adopted their final briefs of argument. Kanu Agabi led Kanu's team of lawyers while Mike Ozakome presented his appeal to the Apex Court panel. Ozakome prayed the court to not only order the immediate release of his client from detention, but to equally award very heavy and punitive costs against the federal government. The United Nations has called for a reorientation of the world's education system in order to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. George Wachira, the UN resident coordinator, gave the charge in an address on Thursday, October 5, to commemorate this year's World Teachers' Day. Wachira said the theme for this year on the global imperative to reverse teacher shortage reflects on the support needed to fully deploy teachers' talent and vocation and to rethink the way ahead for the profession globally.
Today, on World Teachers' Day, we appreciate and celebrate the critical role of teachers in transforming our world through molding our children and young people. Today, more than ever before, our world is in need of great shifts and transformations in order to achieve our Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. One of the shifts that is urgently needed is the reorientation of our education system to prepare our young generation for our 21st century opportunities and challenges. The noble profession of teaching is key in ensuring that learners have the knowledge, the skills, the caliber, and the character they need to take responsibility for themselves, for others, and for the planet. As part of the Transforming Education Summit process in 2022, Eswatini committed to ensuring it was on track to meet SDG 4 targets by 2030 and is commendably already making good progress in the digital platform learning space, thanks to the government, our teachers, and all stakeholders. Therefore, as we mark the World Teachers' Day, we celebrate, appreciate, and cheer every teacher for their invaluable contribution to the molding of our children, our young people, and our future.
Nigeria has a lower than expected level of educational achievement, given its moderately high per capita income, indicating high illiteracy rates. This issue is made worse given the absence of enough teachers for the nation's teeming student population. One reason cited is the poor welfare of teachers in the country, which has driven very bright minds away from the profession into more lucrative vocations. In 2023, World Teachers' Day celebration focuses on the theme, the global imperative to reverse the teacher shortage. There are more details in this report.
Currently, the Nigerian education system faces numerous challenges, including lack of resources, overcrowding, poor infrastructure, inadequate teacher training, socio-economic disparities, political instability, and an exam-driven approach. According to the Teachers Registration Council of Nigeria, the country has only 2.3 million registered teachers on its database as of 2023. The NUT has lamented that teachers leaving the service in many states were not being replaced, while the quality of teaching was fast declining.
I believe the poor remuneration is one factor, because when people are not being paid well, of course, we have to look for greener pastures somewhere else. And that is why we have this problem. Then the government too, they need some teachers, they have died maybe due to sickness, some have relocated, and so on and so forth. And yet, the number of teachers that are being employed, they are not enough.
The progress is slow, and we have low shortage of teachers because most of the teachers are not well paid, and the environment, the learning environment is not conducive for most of them.
After doctors, mass exodus of teachers from Nigerian looms. Just recently, Nigerians saw a mass migration of teachers when the United Kingdom commenced a teachers' recruitment, prioritizing applicants from Nigerians and other developing countries. For experts, this indicates the need for better treatment for Nigerian teachers.
Our salaries are not commensurate to the work we do. So if they can do something about our salaries, our welfare, especially in the area of mortgage plans, government, when they build houses, teachers can't afford them unless they have to do something else.
Stakeholders have called for urgent and creative action by the state and federal government to lay a solid foundation for national development by giving priority to education system.
Education should be made a priority. Should be made a priority in Nigeria. In our budget, the government should give education a priority. Education is the bedrock of every society. When there is no education or the education foundation is shaky, it's going to affect every other thing, just as it is affecting it now. So they need to do something about that. Teachers are nation builders. And when you relegate your teachers to the background, or you just decide to treat them anyhow, it will affect everything, both the political, economy, and everything you can talk about.
Following the calls for improvement, the federal government has announced its readiness to allocate 25% of the national budget to the education sector in order to meet global standards, improve quality of learning, and retain the best hands in the system. Sydney Okafor, TV360, Lagos.
Now, to speak on the effect of the shortage of teachers in Nigeria, Fumi Lori, founder, I Read Library, joins me on the news. Many thanks for your time. Now, as an expert in the field, how has the shortage of teachers affected students' performance over the years?
The shortage of teachers has started even before COVID-19, but the lockdown made teachers see that there are more possibilities other than what it is that they're currently seeing in the school system. When we talk about the public schools, we find out that the government is trying and giving teachers the minimum wage. But in the private schools, not many of them, we have, maybe eyebrow private schools and then low-income private schools. Many teachers are leaving. They're leaving en masse. Not just for leaving the education space, but even leaving the country. So you find out that there's so much that can be done to help improve and the it cannot have enough teachers in schools. We can be sure that the quality of education for the children would also be substandard. You find schools recruiting SSC holders now as teachers, and how much can they give the children?
Well, for me, Laurie, I'm afraid that's how much you can take. Thank you very much for your insight. Insecurity Governor of Zamfara State, Dauda Lawal, has assured that security agencies are making frantic efforts to rescue abducted students of the Federal University, Gusau. The governor gave the assurance on Thursday while conducting an on-the-spot assessment of the security situation within the university and its environment following the abduction of over 30 female students at Sabongida community. Lawal promised to provide adequate security in the university community to make it safest for the students to go about carrying out their academic activities without fear of attack. We'll take a break here, but still to come, 14 dead, 102 missing in India's glacial lake burst. Stay with us for details of this story and others. We'll be right back.
In the last 3 years, we have built a multi-purpose center, which is the envy of all in our constituency. And I can tell you that the people who are living there are already enjoying it.
Guy, do you think what this man just said is true? See, I seriously doubt. I'm sure it's one of those their silly lies.
And wait, do you know there's a way to find out if these things he's saying is true or not? This is the Construct app. It gives people like us a sure way to track implementation of constituency projects. It gives valid and verified information on location of projects, amounts allocated, amount funded, the level of job done, and even the profiles of concerned legislators. You and I can post directly on this app.
Are you serious?
This is the Go-To app if you want to know how our Commonwealth is being expanded by the government.
Wow. Let's even see if what this man said is true. Show me.
The Construct app is developed by Other People Nigeria with support from USAID and is available on both Google Play Store and Apple Store.
And it's true.
Of course, I told you.
Welcome back. A recap of our top stories. The presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party PDP, Atiku Abubakar, says he will decide on further action after the Supreme Court's ruling on President Bola Tinubu's academic records from the Chicago State University. Atiku said this during a World Press Conference on Thursday at the Shehu Yaradua Center in Abuja. Atiku had approached the U.S. District Court in Northern Illinois to compel the university to release President Tinubu's academic records, arguing that it would boost his suit challenging the president's election in the February 25 presidential poll. We also told you that the United Nations has called for a reorientation of the world's education system in order to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals by 2030. George Wachira, the UN resident coordinator, gave the charge in an address on Wednesday, October 5, to commemorate this year's World Teachers' Day. Wachira said the theme for this year on the global imperative to reverse the teacher shortage reflects on the support needed to fully deploy teachers' talent and vocation and to rethink the way ahead for the profession globally. In case you missed any of our news bulletins or for more updates, you can catch us on Limex World TV or log on to our website on www.tv360nigeria.com. You can also follow us on our social media platforms on Twitter, Instagram and YouTube at TV360 Nigeria, or download our mobile app on Google Play Store and Huawei App Gallery. On Facebook, we're at TV360 Online. In business, the Minister of Steel Development, Shuaibu Abubakar Audu, has said that the Ajaokuta town and its environment will soon be designated as a free trade zone to attract foreign direct investment, FDI, and to diversify the economy of the country. Abubakar Audu revealed this at his maiden visit to the Ajaokuta Steel Company Limited on Wednesday as he took a tour of the complex with some investors from America, Germany, Russia and China. He also pledged his commitment to ensure the production of steel from the multi-billion-dollar investment project of the federal government under a 3-year plan. We'll take a short break here and return with a review of the stock market. Do stay with us. Bullish sentiments on the Nigerian Stock Exchange raised trade higher, appreciating by 0.13%, with the market cap standing at 36.44 trillion naira. In the aggregate, 115 NGX-listed equities participated in trading, ending with 24 gainers and 19 losers. Now, on the gainers side, Wema Bank led the gainers with 9.93% share price appreciation, closing at 4 naira 65 kobo per share, followed by Thermos Wyatt Nigeria at 9.74%. At the end of trading, the Nigeria Stock Market exchanged a total of 357 million volumes of shares valued at over 3 billion naira in 6,953 deals. Now let's move to our select global stocks. The markets ended in bullish trend for the UK's FTSE and Japan's Nikkei as they traded at 0.53%, 1.80% respectively, while US Dow Jones ended on the negative side at 0.46%. At least 14 people have been killed and 102 are still missing in the northeast Indian state of Sikkim after heavy rain caused a glacial lake to burst its banks, triggering flash floods down a mountain valley. Authorities say the disaster, which happened on Wednesday, has affected more than 22,000 people and 22 army personnel are among the missing. It has also left over 3,000 tourists stranded after the floods washed away the main highways and bridges. And on sports, a non-governmental organization, Making of Champions, has launched an initiative for the rebirth of athletics in Nigeria with the launch of a school athletics championship. The tournament, which will be an annual event, seeks to create a pathway for young athletes in local and international track and field events. Sports correspondent Jide Olaniran completes the story.
Nigeria's poor performances in athletics, especially the sprint event at the global stage, has become perennial. A case in point is a disappointing outing at the last World Athletics Championship in Budapest, where none of the country's athletes made it to the podium. For a country of teeming youth with great sporting potentials, stemming the tide of this underachievement will require a deliberate discovery program which will throw up world beaters.
MTN is committed to developing Nigeria's young people. We have a whole bunch of initiatives, the spelling bee, the campus invasions, Blow My Hustle. And what we're trying to do is power the dreams of these young people and provide them with the platforms and technology that they need to take on the world. And we hope to provide our young athletes with a platform to shine as they learn life's valuable skills.
In a presentation to the stakeholders, the country manager of Making of Champions unveils the modalities of the championship as well as the 4 major cities that will host the young athletes within the ages of 12 to 19.
These events are on World Athletics. So if you go to World Athletics competitions, you'll see all these 4 events there. So once an athlete competes and has a time, it automatically registers with the age that has been registered with on World Athletics. So there's no changing from then on. That's first of all. Second of all, it's important to know that with instructor each principals, they have got a database, and if you're not in the confines of a secondary school, you cannot register for the cadets and youth event. What Champs has done literally is to cater for age grade between 11 and 19.
As a grassroots program that requires technical and academic strategic partners, working with the Athletics Federation of Nigeria and the Nigerian School Sports Federation on this project is one box to tick in order to guarantee the sustainability of the initiative.
But the problem that we have is that the National Youth Game, the age bracket is between 12 to 15. Between 15 and 20, no competitions. But in the meantime, MTN Schools Athletics Championship has now decided to cover that for us.
Nigeria School Sport Federation, being the nursery bed that has the children that will be developed, we are doing developmental program. So Nigeria School Sport Federation has determined to ensure through competitions like this, we unearth these untapped budding talents that abound everywhere in the nooks and crannies of Nigeria.
The future stars to emerge from the championship will have enough inspiration to draw from the past school sports champions, as well as a world record holder like Toby Amuson, who is also a product of grassroots initiative like the MTN Champs. Jide Olaniran, TV 360 Nigeria.
And that's our package on news now at this hour. Many thanks for watching. I'm Simisola Adigun. Join us next time.